Welcome to the powerful series of exam preparation. So this is our first session, and I'm sure at the end you will realize the power of this session, right? With the assumption that you are students who have reasonably covered and understand the key concepts. So what then this session? This session is to directly begin with exam papers. Look at this is the paper, this is what is being tested, and then you should be able to go back and relate the relevant theory, and then we will also in the same session. So remember, in my intro I mentioned to you in introduction, you are not just going to watch. If you are going to watch now, you need to have a blank paper with you. I am starting directly with the past paper. So this is the paper we are going to do. Feb 21 in your syllabus. The case study that carries the highest marks. In section 3 there are 2 questions with 20 marks. Usually if you look at all the past papers, audit planning has been a big topic, and this is not only audit planning plus audit evidence, wide area of the syllabus. So probably during next 1.5 hours you are going to, right, while you have studied all of these concepts, the risk assessment, the planning, all of that, the audit evidence, how to audit sales, how to audit assertions, all of that, within 1.5 hours, we are going to, like the exam, start doing the answer. So it's not only doing the answer, it's about refreshing what you have learned. If you haven't understood, understanding now that correctly, and how can I confidently write down the answer. While I will live write down the answer, I will also show you answer that is written. And I always remind you, don't ever read just suggested answer without your analysis. So therefore what you need to do now is not only watch, have your A4 sheet, right? With me, read the questions, and I will show you within 10 minutes, how the points for the answer can be derived in the paper itself. If you have this past paper, right, in the paper itself, the answer sketch, the point form, the answer is built in 10 minutes. So during the next 10 minutes, say it's exam, then you are converting these bullet points to answer and you are done with it. So that's what we are going to do. So let's start directly with the paper. So this is the paper, and straight to question number 6, and do with me, I always advise, straight go down and see what has been tested. When you read this section of a paper, it will give you some idea. With this action verb, are you really knowledgeable? When you look at now, see the key concepts I am going to highlight during next 5 minutes, and then to ask, do you really know what does it mean? And then we are reading the case study to find answers for what are business risks, what are audit risks, right? And what are the responses we have to give to these risks. Likewise. So that's what we are going to do. Let's try during next 10 minutes to understand how can we get 20 marks. What's our understanding there? So let us do that now. Here, recognize. So the idea of recognize means you should know this is happening, and you should be able to explain that this is in the way the examiner is asking. Key business risk. Now, this is one of the first concepts that we are learning in this fast course, simplified course, the business risk. So the concept here is business risk in this company called AIM for the financial year end 31st March. So, whenever you notice business risk, what you should think is, forget the financial statement. Anything that can affect business objectives in very simple sense is called business risk. Very simple explanation. Anything that can affect business objectives as well as what business is going to do in terms of strategy. For example, COVID, right? Because of COVID, company cannot continue the production. So therefore, they will not be able to execute their sales targets. That's the business risk. So the next question says, using the information provided, now we get 6 marks for this. 6 key audit risks. Now here the second concept that we come across is key audit risks. So remember, when there is business risk, you are simply asking, can that business risk affect my numbers in the financial statement? And in auditing, technically we call this ROM, risk of misstatement. When you happen to identify risk of material misstatement, you can always think what line item in the accounts that can be affected. So there, remember, naturally you need to have the understanding about assertion when you answer this question. I will explain to you at the end of the discussion. You will be very comfortable with assertion as well. And then now here, if you identify 2 risks, only 2 we have to identify, but when we do the question we will identify many, right? Outline 3 appropriate responses. Now see, in auditing, now this is very similar. In the introduction I told you about a story of auditing, starting with a business risk. When there is a business risk, can the numbers be affected? Yes. If the numbers are going to be affected, how do we know whether numbers have been affected? For that purpose, we have to audit the number, and that relates to audit evidence. See here, normally the word outline means like a summarization. Outline 3 responses. So meaning what, how audit is going to audit that risk. Each of the audit risks discussed above. So this relates to audit evidence. And usually when they say audit responses, it connects to several chapters in your syllabus that deals with, you know, auditing account balances and assertion. For example, if sales is a risk, we should be able to tell here how to audit sales. When I explain the answer, I am covering both audit planning and audit evidence. And then D says apply. Apply means you have to do that. Apply the knowledge. You know what analytical procedure means. Hope you know. If you don't know, again, you know, that's the power of this session, theory plus answers. That you will know. I'll tell you, analytical procedure can be explained in 2 words. That's the, I told you something in magical in our brain, right? So you should be able to spot something that how can I remember analytical procedure definition forever, right? It's about 2 words. One is you evaluate financial statements. What do you mean by evaluate? To see is there anything unusual. Evaluate, 2 words, right? Let me write those 2 words, so that as we speak, you know that how powerful these words, right? Analytical procedure, one thing is evaluation. I will tell you what is meant by evaluation. That's why finally when we do all this question, this goes to about 10 pages of very powerful exam toolkit that you must look at before the exam, right? Analytical procedure, step 1 is called evaluation. I'll tell you what to evaluate. And step 2 is investigation. When you do both, it becomes analytical procedure. So that entire definition you may not remember, but if you are able to explain using these 2, okay, what I evaluate? The relationship which are unusual, right? Usually relationships are predictable. When sales increase, the cost of sales should increase. That's the GP margin. So that you evaluate those relationships. When sales increase, if it has decreased, now that is something to investigate. Now that's how you remember analytical procedure to verify. Now here we are looking what relationship? Rebates. Now first of all, rebate is something like a commission, rebate expense, right? Now rebate goes with what? Is relationship? No. Rebate, definitely, if it is commission, it should be sales. When sales increase, rebate should increase. So the percentage should be predictable. So they are asking that. And also they are asking apply analytical procedures to verify rebate for the year ended. Another question, state 2 steps to be performed by the auditor when using analytical procedure as substantive test. Now this gives you another big theory that when it comes to audit evidence, auditor's smart way of gathering audit evidence is what? The first thing is, whenever there is a risk here identified, ROM, let us say ROM is sales, right? We are talking about sales overstated due to a cutoff error. Cutoff means incorrectly recorded, incorrect period. April sales book in March. If that is a risk, the first thing auditor will ask, before I go and check the cutoff, Whether company knows that there is a cutoff problem, for that purpose company should have control. If they have a control, the best thing is to test that control, the first option, right? But still remember, you cannot gather audit evidence only by test of control. Why? Please make now a lot of theory in this 10-15 minutes you learn. You cannot only do audit based on test of control. Why? Auditing standard says if item is material, you have to do some level of substantive. And the smart way of doing substantive is to ask, before I go and check invoices, isn't there an easy way for me to audit? That easy and smart way of auditing is called SAP, Substantive Analytical Procedure. That is, by comparing, I am going to investigate, can there be a difference? Now that, when you use substantive, you have to follow some procedures. Now this is auditing standard number 520. So after this case study, you will also know this standard or a chapter in your book called analytical procedure. In one question, you will know risk, you will know audit evidence in one question. Now we know. We need to read this question. We need to read this question to answer few things. What are business risks? How many business risks? 4 business risks, right? 2 key audit risks. From business risk to key audit risk, while we read the question, we will map. I said at the end of reading, we will have most of the answers ready specifically for these 2 questions and even this. While we do the analysis, you can easily come up with this answer. So these 2 to be derived from the case study, because based on this risk we identified, only we can write this answer, right? So then initially at the end of the reading, we should have answer for these 2 ready. 10 marks is ready after reading the question. Based on what we write here, we can easily derive another 3 marks. And then probably there should be another section on analytical procedure in the case study for us to specifically apply, and then that's the understanding of the question. Let's now go through.